Ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to inform for the participant in the Zoom cloud meeting, the interpreter is available in English and Indonesian through the interpreter channel. Thank you.
Good morning, distinguished guests and participants.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. The Honorable Deputy Director General of Organization and Work Procedure of Indonesian Civil Servant representing Minister of Administrative and Bureaucratic Reform of Indonesia, Mrs. Rini Widiantini.
The Honorable Director General of National Archive of the Republic of Indonesia, Mr. Imam Gunarto.
The Honorable President of International Council on Archive, or ICA, Mr. David Frickers.
the Honorable Director General of Social and Culture of International Organization for Developing Countries, Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Indonesia, Mrs. Penny Dewi Herasati.
The Honorable Chairman of Southeast Asia Regional Branch of the International Council on Archive or SARBICA, Mr. Victorino Manalo.
The Honorable Advisor and Chief Communication and Information at UNESCO Bangkok, Mrs. Misako Ito.
The Honorable Panelist, Vice Chair, Memory of the Work Committee for Asia and the Pacific, Mrs. Fu Ti Min Huang.
Professor Anthony Reid from Australian National University.
Communication Officer for Asian Cultural Heritage Digital Archive, Mrs. Gladys Respati.
The formers of Director General of National Archive of the Republic of Indonesia, Professor Nurhadi Magetsari.
Mr. Joko Utomo.
Mr. M. Asikin.
Mr. M. Taufik.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen,
welcome to Indonesia and welcome to the opening ceremony of SARBICA International Seminar, 22nd General Conference and 23rd Executive Board Meeting.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Aski.
And my name is Arbi.
And we will be hosting the opening ceremony today.
First of all, we like to inform that we would like to put off our mask. We still follow the health protocols for the pandemic situation.
Arbi?
Yes, Aski.
I want to ask you something.
Okay.
What do you think about the stage?
Wow, it's so Yogyakarta. And you can see my outfit. The stage feels like I am in Yogyakarta.
Yes, Arbi, I agree with you. It's too bad, right? We cannot hold this event in Yogyakarta due to the pandemic.
Even though we are not in Yogyakarta, but we bring the Yogyakarta vibes to all of you virtually.
Well, yes, it's good, Arbi. And we hope that you will enjoy the event today. Right, Arbi?
Yes, Aski.
All right, Arbi, let's move to the next session. Excellencies, distinguished guests, participants, ladies and gentlemen. First program, singing the national anthem, Indonesia Raya. Please be rise. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated.
Ladies and gentlemen, SARBICA, or Southeast Asia Regional Branch of the International Council on Archives, is the first regional branch of the International Council on Archives. It was established at an inaugural conference held in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, of the 9th of July, 1968.
Ladies and gentlemen, there are the members of SARBICA. Brunei Darussalam,
Cambodia,
Indonesia,
Laos,
Malaysia,
Myanmar,
Philippines,
Singapore,
Thailand,
and Vietnam.
Ladies and gentlemen, before we begin, let's pray together for the event run smoothly. And may the God Almighty give us His blessing for joining this international seminar. Pray, begin. Amen.
Excellencies, distinguished guest participants, ladies and gentlemen. Next, we have a special performance, Indonesian traditional dance called Rampak Gendang.
Rampak Gendang is one of the traditional dance of the Sundanese in West Java. Rampak Gendang consists of two syllables, namely Rampak and Gendang. Rampak comes from the Sundanese language, which means simultaneously, while Gendang is a drum instrument in gamelan. So, Rampak Gendang is a drum performance played simultaneously at the same time.
The musical instrument used is the drum, as the main musical instrument is the Rampak Gendang, fiddle, guitar, and other gamelan instrument. Rampak Gendang are usually played by more than 2 people using some costume. Ladies and gentlemen, please enjoy.
Wow.
Wow, it's so fantastic.
Yes.
Let's give
Let's
the big
give them
applause
a-
again, once
Yes.
more.
Arbi,
Yes, Aski.
what do you think about the dance just now?
Okay, I think the dance is very, very entertaining. The dancers are beautiful and really represents the spirits of Indonesian culture.
Yes, Arbi, I agree with you. We hope that the spirit of the dancer will influence the participant of today's event. Right, Arbi?
Yes, Aski.
All right, move to the next session. Ladies and gentlemen, we are very pleased to have you in this event. In a moment, we have a special film documentary, History of Sarbika. Please enjoy.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, for the next session, welcoming address by Director General of National Archive of the Republic of Indonesia, Mr. Imam Gunarto. Time is yours.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning. In this occasion, I would like to present my report in Indonesian. To colleagues from abroad, please click on the option of interpretation in English on your computer. Thank you very much. Yang terhormat dan kita banggakan bersama-sama, Menteri Pendayagunaan Aparatur Negara dan Reformasi Birokrasi yang dalam hal ini diwakili oleh PLT Sekretaris Kementerian yang juga Deputi Bidang Kelembagaan dan Ketatalaksanaan, Ibu Rini Widiantini. Terima kasih Ibu. Yang saya hormati Direktur Sosial Budaya dan ONB Kementerian Luar Negeri, Ibu Penny Herawati yang hari ini hadir secara online. The Honorable President of International Council on Archive, Mr. David Fricker. The Honorable Mr. Manalo, Chairman of Sarbika. Yang saya hormati para senior kami, Bapak Profesor Dr. Nur Hadi Magetsari, Bapak Joko Utomo, Bapak M. Asikin, Bapak M. Taufik, dan sesungguhnya Pak Mukhlis Paini juga ingin sekali hadir, tapi beliau sekarang ada di Sumatera Barat, dan Pak Mustari Irawan juga akan hadir, tapi beliau sebagai KASN hari ini ada tugas untuk penyeleksian kegiatan tugas-tugas di KASN. Kemudian juga Ibu Gina Masidah Husni, terima kasih Ibu perkenannya hadir. Yang saya hormati juga Ibu Sekretaris LAN, Ibu Reni, Bapak Sekretaris Utama BPKP, Bapak Ernadi, sahabat saya yang terima kasih Pak berkenan hadir. Kemudian Ibu Sri Gantini, mewakili Kepala BKN, terima kasih Ibu atas berkenannya. Para JPT Madya dan JPT Pratama Arsip Nasional, para pejabat fungsional utama di lingkungan Arsip Nasional, para hadirin semuanya, baik yang hadir secara daring maupun secara luring, yang tidak bisa saya sebutkan satu persatu. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin, puji syukur marilah kita panjatkan kepada Tuhan Yang Maha Esa, karena kita dapat hadir baik secara luring maupun daring dalam acara yang sangat penting bagi organisasi Sarbika, organisasi kearsipan di Asia Tenggara. Dalam kesempatan yang baik ini, kami mengaturkan terima kasih kepada Bapak Menteri yang diwakili oleh Ibu Sesmen, kepada Ibu Direktur Sosial Budaya, kepada Presiden ICA, kepada Chairman of Sarbika, para undangan, pimpinan dari Paguyuban, para sesepuh kami, para kepala ANRI, dan seluruh hadirin yang hadir dalam kesempatan ini, yang memberikan dukungan dan partisipasinya sehingga acara ini bisa berjalan dengan baik. Tentu saja juga atas dukungan dari seluruh arsiparis di Indonesia. Ibu Sesmen dan hadirin yang saya hormati, Perkenankan kami melaporkan secara singkat tentang kegiatan Sarbika saat ini. Tentu saja Indonesia, khususnya Arsip Nasional Republik Indonesia, merasa bangga menjadi tuan rumah Seminar Internasional Sarbika, General Conference ke-22, dan Executive Board Meeting ke-23 di tahun 2021 ini. Penunjukan sebagai tuan rumah telah dilakukan pada tanggal 24 Oktober 2018 di Putrajaya, Malaysia. Bapak Ibu yang saya hormati, pada mulanya acara ini akan kita laksanakan secara langsung, secara fisik di Yogyakarta. Seluruh sahabat-sahabat kami, rekan-rekan kami dari Asia Tenggara sudah membayangkan kita akan menikmati kunjungan budaya, belanja, kuliner, melihat Candi Borobudur dan sebagainya di sela-sela seminar, di sela-sela Executive Board Meeting. Tetapi itu tidak bisa terlaksana karena situasi pandemi yang tidak memungkinkan kita melaksanakan pertemuan dalam kapasitas yang besar, apalagi mengundang dari sahabat-sahabat kita dari negara-negara ASEAN. Oleh karena itu, dengan keterbatasan, dengan kesederhanaan, kita ingin menghadirkan suasana pertemuan Sarbika ini seakan-akan kita membayangkan berada di Yogyakarta. Bapak, Ibu, dan hadirin yang saya hormati, kami laporkan bahwa rangkaian dari acara ini mulai tanggal 23 sampai 25 November 2021. Hari ini, kecuali diadakan pembukaan, akan dilanjutkan dengan seminar internasional yang akan diselenggarakan 3 hari dengan tema yang berbeda-beda. Kemudian kita juga akan menyelenggarakan konferensi umum ke-22 dan rapat Dewan Eksekutif ke-23 yang akan dilaksanakan pada tanggal 24. Sidang Sarbika kali ini mengambil tema Safeguarding the Archive dengan 3 subtema, yaitu memori, pandemik, dan teknologi. Tema ini memiliki filosofi dan makna yang sesuai dengan semangat penyelenggaraan kearsipan pada saat ini. Kata safeguarding berarti melindungi dari bahaya atau kerusakan. Melindungi arsip dalam konteks kontemporer yang dilihat dari 3 perspektif, yaitu terkait dengan bagaimana meningkatkan peran arsip sebagai warisan dokumenter dunia. Yang kedua, sebagai tindakan responsif terhadap situasi pandemi COVID-19 dan dalam rangka pemanfaatan teknologi informasi dan komunikasi. Webinar yang akan diselenggarakan 3 hari melibatkan para pakar baik secara nasional maupun internasional dengan tema pertama, arsip, memori, dan warisan dokumenter dunia dengan pembicara kunci Miss Misako Ito dari MOE CAP. Kemudian di hari kedua akan membahas arsip dan sikap kearsipan terhadap pandemi COVID-19 dengan pembicara kunci insya Allah Bapak Ridwan Kamil, Gubernur Jawa Barat. Kemudian di hari ketiga akan membahas tentang transformasi digital untuk kearsipan dengan pembicara kunci Miss Atea Seles dari Sekjen ICA. Target peserta yang insya Allah hadir dalam seminar adalah 3.000 orang. Yang dari dalam negeri tentu saja paling banyak karena ini bagian dari proses learning bagi teman-teman kami kearsipan secara nasional. Dan menurut laporan terakhir dari panitia, kemarin sudah mendaftar lebih dari 150 orang peserta dari luar negeri. Saya kira kita beri aplaus untuk teman-teman kita dari luar negeri yang hadir dalam acara ini. Ibu Sesmen dan hadirin yang berbahagia, pada sesi rapat umum Lembaga Kearsipan dari negara-negara anggota Sarbika tahun ini akan memilih ketua Dewan Eksekutif dan akan mengeluarkan rekomendasi berupa program-program di tahun-tahun berikutnya. Dewan akan mengangkat atau memilih ketua dan wakil ketua Sarbika untuk periode 2021-2023. Saya kira demikian yang bisa kami laporkan. Tidak lupa kami menghaturkan terima kasih kepada seluruh hadirin, seluruh pimpinan yang telah mendukung kegiatan ini berjalan dengan baik. Kami juga mengucapkan terima kasih kepada Sekjen Sarbika yang dipimpin oleh Miss Hafisa Osman dari Malaysia yang telah membimbing kami semua untuk menyelenggarakan kegiatan ini sesuai dengan aturan dan ketentuan yang sudah digariskan oleh Sarbika. Saya kira demikian. Mohon maaf apabila terdapat kekurangan. Terima kasih. Wabillahi taufik wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Mr. Imam Gunarto.
Ladies and gentlemen, next is welcoming address by Director General of Social and Culture of International Organization for Developing Countries, Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Indonesia. Mrs. Penny Dewi Herasati, time is yours.
Mr. Imam Gunarto, the head of the Indonesian National Archives, head of the National Archive of Southeast Asia, Mr. Derek Fikar, the president of ICA, Mr. Mahalo, the chairman of Sarbika, Deputy Director General of Organization and Work Procedure of the Indonesian Civil Service, representing Minister of Administrative and Bureaucratic Reform of Indonesia, Mrs. Rini Widiatini, members of International Organization of Archives, distinguished guests and participants. Very good morning to all of you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. It is a pleasure for me to meet ASEAN National Archive leaders, members of ICA, and all distinguished participants at the 22nd General Conference of Southeast Asia Regional Branch of the National Council on Archives, Sarbika. On behalf of the Director General for Multilateral Cooperation of Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Indonesia, Ambassador Febri Dunia, I wish to congratulate Bapak Imam Gunarto, the head of the Indonesia National Archive, for ANPI and his team for hosting this important gathering. The theme that ANPI puts forward for the Sarbika is safeguarding the archives, memory, family, and technology, to save time and relevant to people of all. It is an initiative of ANPI to align the roles of national archives to address current global situation, where all countries are still struggling to cope with COVID-19 era. Distinguished participants, against this backdrop, allow me to highlight three important points regarding the theme from the perspective of Indonesian diplomacy. First, the theme reflects the Indonesian government's effort to promote cultural diplomacy in the region. Cooperation in archive management is closely linked with the cultural diplomacy, which has been one of the basic foundations of Indonesian foreign policy. The cooperation will promote dialogue and understanding of various archival topics among stakeholders in the region. It gives opportunity to develop partnership, improving the works of national archives in preserving and managing heritage documents, including to identify historical archives in the region that can be co-nominated at the UNESCO Memory of the World in the future. Second, it reflects the willingness of all can be shared as best practice with countries in the region. The archives of tsunami management in Aceh, for example, has been widely used as reference for countries in the region to formulate a better disaster management at all phases, including preparedness, mitigation, response, and reconstruction. Third, it highlights the commitment of the Indonesian government to implement digital transformation in the fields of documents and archives. In this regard, Indonesia is willing to share its experience and best practice with other partners in the region, and at the same time to learn from other successful stories regarding the issue. Distinguished participants, to conclude, I should extend my wishes to all of you that the General Conference, Executive Board meeting, and International Seminar of this year shall deliver constructive outcomes that will contribute to the improvement of the works of national archives in the region. Furthermore, I hope that through this gathering, it will leverage the roles of archives as an important part of cultural diplomacy. I should stop here and I wish you a very good day. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Penny Dewi Herasati.
Ladies and gentlemen, move to the next session. Gladly we present to you film Sarbika Indonesia 2021. Enjoy!
Gremlins Audio Visual.
Ladies and gentlemen, next session is remarks by the President of International Council on Archive, or ICA, Mr. David Fricker. Time is yours.
Your Excellency, Honorable Minister, Mr. Victorino Manalo, Chairman of SADCO, and the Executive Director of the National Archives of the Philippines.
Salah, di sini masih Pak.
Masih itu ya, maksudnya launching buku, nanti launching buku yang diserahkan bukan cuma perwakilan itu, tapi perwakilan paguyuban juga dari LAN dan BPKP. Nih, di sini kan baru berarti di lu.
Siapa aja?
And I first of all congratulate you, the master on the celebration thus far. It doesn't surprise me at all.
Tulis saja Ki, turut mohon untuk naik ke atas.
Your institutionary that is determined on such an excellent show as this and express so much of the rich culture of Indonesia at this opening event. So there's my congratulations to you and all of your fantastic team. Once again, wearing my hat as President of the ICA, I'm so pleased, so grateful, in fact, to see this seminar being convened by SADCO to discuss these topics of great importance to our profession, and for us all across the cyber community to maintain the momentum of our new thinking and our innovation as we approach the management of records and archives, and the theme that you have chosen, safeguarding the archives. So very important at all times. But can I say it's especially important during these times of disruption and change brought upon us by the COVID pandemic. Because right now we're seeing that more than ever, people are depending on trustworthy sources of information, of reliable records, and they are seeking assurances that public administration is being informed by a reliable memory of the past. And people want to be assured that governments today are being properly recorded to ensure transparency and accountability of the vital decisions that are now being made. And so I think at times such as these, our work in records and archives management is therefore especially important. For example, during these times of social upheaval, it is often the marginalised and the underprivileged that suffer the most, because these are the people that are underrepresented in the records kept, and consequently, they can be overlooked. We are also preserving a reliable and inclusive memory of humanity's experience to ensure that future generations will have the necessary resources to properly study the past and to face the future with deep understanding and with knowledge. Now, I'm also very grateful to SADCO, the organisation of this conference with these themes, because this is providing an important contribution to ICA's global strategy, which is entitled Empowering Archives and the Profession. Now, the strategy for ICA globally has three key objectives. One, we want to strengthen our network and enable more collaboration. Two, we want to be more transparent and accountable and inclusive as an organisation. And three, we want to be well informed and engaged with our members, strong areas, archives, records management, and professions. And already so much on all may I please extend to you all, on behalf of the International Council on Archives, my very best wishes for a successful event, and once again my congratulations for convening this opportunity for professional collaboration and advancement in the areas of safeguarding our archives. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, remarks by Chairman of Southeast Asia Regional Branch of the International Council on Archive, or SARWICA, Mr. Victorino Manalo. Time is yours.
Can you all hear me?
Yes, sir. We can hear you clearly.
Good morning. And to the Directors General of the Southeast Asian Regional Branch of the International Council on Archives, or SARWICA, Ms. Rena Suhaimi of Brunei Darussalam, Ms. Kios Soni of Cambodia, Mrs. Tongchan Hosenhorn of Lao PBR, Mr. Jafar Sidek of Malaysia, Mr. Yu San Min of Myanmar, our current Vice Chairman, Ms. Julia Chi of Singapore, Ms. Nietzsche Jariyasetkar of Thailand, Mr. Dang Tan Hung of Vietnam, and of course, we also heard today Mr. David Fricker of the International Council on Archives, the President of the International Council on Archives, or ICA, and we took note especially of this stress on the importance of recovering the records and recording the experiences of the marginalized in times of pandemic. To Dr. Andrea Celes, also of ICA, she has a beautiful great name, and other ICA officials, resource persons and participants, guests, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, mabuhay. Good morning. Terima and salamat pagi. On behalf of SARWICA, it's my pleasure to welcome all of you today to this virtual seminar organized by RC National Public Indonesia. The theme, Safeguarding Archives, Memory, Pandemic, and Technology, is very relevant as we continue to face the challenges brought about by the COVID-19 pandemic. The present pandemic has highlighted the role of archives institutions as keepers of the collective memory of their respective nations. The records and documents gathered by archives institutions related to the pandemic form part of the documentary heritage of the nation, the region, and the world since the pandemic transcended.
Thank you, Mr. Manalo.
Ladies and gentlemen, in this very special event, we'd like to invite all of you to witness the launching of Sarbika Exclusive Heritage Publication. This is a publication of exclusive heritage from the members of Sarbika.
Next is the procession of the book submission procession by Director General of National Archive of the Republic of Indonesia, Mr. Imam Gunarto, to Deputy Director General of Organization and Work Procedure of Indonesian Civil Servants representing Minister of Administrative and Bureaucratic Reform of Indonesia, Mrs. Rini Widiantini.
Kami turut mengundang perwakilan dari Paguyuban untuk menerima buku Sarbika Exclusive Heritage kepada Sekretaris Utama LAN, Ibu Reni Susana, Sekretaris Utama BPKP, Bapak Ernadi Sudarmanto, Direktur Jabatan ASN BKN, Ibu Sri Gantini. Mohon perkenan Bapak dan Ibu untuk naik ke atas panggung. Terima kasih. Baik, terima kasih. Kemudian sesi foto bersama. Baik, terima kasih. Mohon berkenan kepada Ibu Rini untuk tetap berada di tempat dan kami silakan kepada Bapak Imam Gunarto, Ibu Reni Susana, Bapak Ernadi Sudarmanto, serta Ibu Sri Gantini untuk kembali ke tempat. Ladies and gentlemen, opening speech delivered by Deputy Director General of Organization and Work Procedure of Indonesian Civil Servants representing Minister of Administrative and Bureaucratic Reform of Indonesia, Mrs. Rini Widiantini. Time is yours.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera bagi kita semua. Selamat pagi Bapak dan Ibu sekalian. Yang saya hormati Bapak Kepala ANRI, Bapak Imam Gunarto, Excellency Mr. V. Manalo, Chairman of Sarbika, Ibu Penny Dewi sebagai Direktur Sosbud dari Kementerian Luar Negeri, and Excellency Mr. David Fricker, President of ICA. Tak lupa saya ingin menyapa juga Ayahanda Bapak Nur Hadi Magatsari, senior saya Bapak Joko Utomo, Bapak Asikin, Bapak Taufik, Ibu Gina, serta sahabat-sahabat saya, Ibu Reni, Pak Ernadi, dan yang mewakili dari PKN, serta seluruh deputi dan jajaran dari Kantor Arsip Nasional Republik Indonesia. Puji syukur kita panjatkan kepada Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, karena atas berkat dan rahmat dan kurnia dan hidayahnya kita semuanya dapat mengikuti acara ini dalam keadaan sehat lahir dan batin, meskipun di dalam kondisi pandemi COVID yang masih berlangsung hingga pada hari ini. Saya ingin mengucapkan terima kasih dan memberikan penghargaan yang setinggi-tingginya kepada teman-teman dan Bapak dan Ibu dari ANDRI yang telah menyelenggarakan acara seminar pada pagi hari ini. Bapak dan Ibu yang saya hormati, penyelenggaraan kearsipan merupakan elemen yang sangat penting di dalam penyelenggaraan pemerintahan, khususnya dalam menghadapi tantangan globalisasi dan mewujudkan pemerintahan yang baik dan bersih, serta meningkatkan kualitas pelayanan publik. Oleh karena itu, penyelenggaraan kearsipan harus dilakukan dalam satu sistem penyelenggaraan kearsipan nasional yang komprehensif dan terpadu. Keberadaan Undang-Undang Nomor 43 Tahun 2009 tentang kearsipan dimaksudkan untuk memberikan kepastian hukum dalam menyelenggarakan kearsipan nasional melalui satu pengaturan yang sangat komprehensif. Bapak dan Ibu yang saya banggakan, tema seminar kita selama 3 hari ini adalah Safeguarding the Archive, Memory, Pandemic, and Technology. Sebagaimana kita ketahui bersama, pandemi COVID-19 merupakan salah satu bencana non-alam yang belum pernah terjadi sebelumnya atau belum pernah dialami sebelumnya sepanjang sejarah Indonesia merdeka. Tidak hanya di Indonesia, hampir seluruh negara di penjuru dunia sampai dengan detik ini masih berjuang mengatasi pandemi COVID-19. Pandemi COVID-19 telah memberikan dampak yang signifikan dalam seluruh aspek kehidupan. Ketiadaan pengetahuan yang memadai dalam menghadapi pandemi COVID-19 telah mendorong pemerintah untuk melakukan inovasi dan terobosan, terutama di dalam penyusunan kebijakan dan pemberian pelayanan kepada masyarakat. Berbagai hal telah dilakukan pemerintah dalam menyeimbangkan penanganan pandemi COVID-19 dari kesehatan maupun dari segi ekonomi. Seluruh upaya pemerintah dalam melakukan penanganan pandemi COVID terekam dalam berbagai kebijakan dan kegiatan yang dihasilkan oleh kementerian dan lembaga. Rekaman kebijakan dan kegiatan tersebut harus dikelola dengan cara yang penuh inovasi dan dengan basis teknologi informasi. Hal tersebut menjadi bagian dari akuntabilitas kinerja pemerintah selama masa pandemi COVID-19, juga sebagai media pembelajaran dan sumber pengetahuan bagi generasi yang akan datang. Oleh karena itu, Kementerian Perdagangan Aparatur Negara dan Reformasi Birokrasi bersama-sama dengan Arsip Nasional Republik Indonesia berinisiatif dalam melakukan perlindungan dan penyelamatan arsip yang dihasilkan dari kegiatan dalam penanganan COVID-19. Inisiatif tersebut tertuang dalam Surat Edaran Menpan Nomor 62 Tahun 2020 tentang penyelamatan arsip penanganan COVID-19 dalam mendukung akuntabilitas kinerja instansi pemerintah yang telah ditetapkan beberapa waktu yang lalu oleh Menteri Perdagangan Aparatur Negara dan Reformasi Birokrasi. Bapak, Ibu, dan hadirin sekalian, arsip merupakan rekaman informasi faktual yang dapat digunakan sebagai rujukan sekaligus berperan sebagai memori kolektif dari satu peristiwa sehingga dapat diakses dan dimanfaatkan dengan tingkat aksesibilitas yang tinggi. Pentingnya peran arsip yang mampu memberikan kesaksian yang terpercaya dan handal menjadi daya ungkit dari penegakan kebenaran dan pembuktian yang terpercaya. Berpijak dari hal tersebut, penyelenggaraan arsip yang baik dan kemudahan bagi siapapun untuk mengakses dan melacak informasi yang diperlukan, serta memastikan bahwa setiap aparatur sipil negara dapat secara akuntabel mempertanggungjawabkan apa yang telah dikerjakan, yang hal itu merupakan satu wujud kebutuhan dan tuntutan yang harus diwujudkan. Akuntabilitas akan mendorong terciptanya transparansi dalam pelaksanaan setiap tugas di instansi pemerintah. Transparansi ini hanya bisa diwujudkan apabila arsip sebagai bukti otentik dari kegiatan yang telah dilaksanakan dikelola secara optimal yang didukung oleh sumber daya kearsipan yang kompeten serta prasarana dan sarana yang berkualitas. Sejalan dengan tema seminar pada 3 hari ini, pemanfaatan teknologi informasi dan komunikasi melalui penerapan SPBE atau Sistem Pemerintahan Berbasis Elektronik menjadi sangat penting sebagai enabler dalam menghasilkan atau menghadirkan tata lintas data kearsipan yang terintegrasi. Bapak dan Ibu sekalian, data elektronik yang menghadirkan tata lintas data kearsipan yang terintegrasi, autentik dan handal ini akan mendukung upaya terhadap pelindungan kepentingan negara dan menyusun berbagai solusi untuk peningkatan kualitas kebijakan publik di segala bidang secara simultan dan terarah. Sebagaimana amanat Peraturan Presiden Nomor 95 Tahun 2018 tentang Sistem Pemerintahan Berbasis Elektronik, Kementerian PAN dan RB dan Kantor Arsip Nasional Republik Indonesia telah menetapkan Sistem Informasi Kearsipan Dinamis Terintegrasi atau yang kita namakan sebagai Srikandi sebagai aplikasi umum bidang kearsipan dinamis melalui keputusan Perman PAN RB nomor 679 tahun 2020. Kebijakan tersebut merupakan kebijakan yang konkret dalam upaya pemerintah dalam mewujudkan keterpaduan dalam pengelolaan kearsipan. Selain itu, penerapan aplikasi umum bidang kearsipan dinamis tersebut akan memberikan kemudahan dalam berbagi arsip dan informasi kearsipan baik instansi pusat, pemerintah daerah, dan atau antar instansi pusat dan pemerintah daerah. Bapak dan Ibu sekalian yang kami banggakan, akhirnya pada kesempatan yang baik ini, saya berharap kepada seluruh pimpinan kementerian, lembaga, pemerintah daerah, BUMN, perguruan tinggi, para arsiparis, dan seluruh insan kearsipan untuk ikut serta berperan secara aktif dalam mendukung optimalisasi arsip sebagai unsur utama dalam sebuah sejarah perjalanan suatu bangsa. Oleh karena itu, arsip autentik sebagai warisan dokumenter akan menjadi stimulan berupa kesiapan dan tanggung jawab kolektif dan sinergitas seluruh lapisan masyarakat dalam menghadapi tantangan di masa depan. Untuk mendukung hal tersebut, seluruh ekosistem kearsipan diharapkan selalu berupaya untuk meningkatkan kompetensi dan melaksanakan tanggung jawab dengan semangat guna mewujudkan reformasi birokrasi dalam tatanan pemerintahan yang bersih dan baik. Saya juga ingin memberikan apresiasi kepada jajaran Arsip Nasional Republik Indonesia dan Dewan Eksekutif Sarbika atas berlangsungnya rangkaian seminar nasional dan sidang umum Sarbika. Dengan mengucapkan Bismillahirrahmanirrahim atas nama Menteri PAN dan RB, dengan ini saya membuka acara seminar internasional pertemuan eksekutif dan sidang umum Sarbika tahun 2021. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you Mrs. Rini Widiantini. Mohon perkenan Ibu Rini untuk tetap berada di atas panggung dan kami turut mengundang Bapak Imam Gunarto untuk naik ke atas panggung. Selanjutnya mohon perkenan kepada Bapak Imam Gunarto serta Ibu Rini untuk dapat memukul gendang
secara simbolis.
Pukulan pertama adalah pukulan 3 kali secara biasa, kemudian dilanjutkan dengan pukulan semakin cepat. Seperti itu Bapak. 3 pukulan pertama.
Kita hitung.
1, 2, 3.
Beri tepuk tangan yang meriah.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a big applause. Thank you, Mr. Imam Gunarto and Mrs. Rini Widiantini.
Thank you Mr. Imam Gunarto dan Mrs. Rini Widiantini.
Excellencies, distinguished guests, participants, ladies and gentlemen. That is the opening ceremony of Sarbika International Seminar, 22nd General Conference and 23rd Executive Board Meeting.
Our next agenda is the webinar that will be held through Zoom cloud meeting in 15 minutes. To all participants, we would like you to stay with us until the end of the event. Thank you.
Framelens Audio Visual.
Thank you.
Ci he he. Cik halo ci he. Cik ha. 1 2 cik he. Cik halo 1 2. 1 2 halo cik he. Halo cik he. Cik halo 1 cik he. Ini cik halo 1 2 halo cik he. Cik he. Mana?
Ini apa nih?
Sono nggak keluar? Speaker sono? Oh, volumenya kecil. Cik halo 1 2 cik he. 1 2 cik he cik halo. Dah. Udah.
Sini ya, Det.
Yang nomor 1.
Iya, maaf Mbak.
Nah, sini Bu. Majuan dikit.
Kamu nggak bawa tuh, no?
Oh. Maju dikit, Mbak. Atas dikit. Nah, gitu.
Sini.
Oke, siap.
Yuk.
Cek. Ini dari depan ininya,
Ini
Pak.
dari dalam aja, biar gak ini.
Masukin.
Sini aja deh, sini aja.
Tapi
Ini
udah
kan
emang.
sini.
Gimana?
Sini, masukin sini aja biar nggak kelihatan.
Apa sih?
Nah,
Gimana
ini
sih?
sini nih. Ini aja ke sini. Kalau dibuka,
Gini.
masukin dalam gini ya. Nah,
Nggak bisa, udah dipeniti soalnya.
Iya.
gini aja. Nah, gitu.
Oh, udah cukup.
Nah, gitu aja.
Oke.
Coba cek sound.
Udah ya?
Tes 1 2. Masuk nggak?
Masuk.
Kayaknya ada belek lagi. Kedengeran nggak sih? Tes 1 2. Berminyak nggak sih? Oh. Ladies and gentlemen, ngadepnya ke sini ya? Ke sana ya? Oh ya. Oke. How are you? Oke. Kalau silahkan Mrs. Misako itu. Kan Miss abis ngomong kayak, oh ya baik. Iya, kayak sendirian banget di sini ya. Apa? Oh ya. Prompternya belum. Ini kayak ada yang kelilipan deh di mata aku kiri. Iya nggak? Ada nggak? Yang ini?
Enggak ada.
Di sini Pak. Cukup. Mohon diarahkan.
Dari sini kan? Dari
Oh,
sini,
saya
kan?
masuk.
Dari sini dulu kan?
Terus itu
kita latihan
ada.
dulu sekali, biar supaya mbaknya lihat. Coba. Simulasi. Coba kita simulasi di kayak tadi malam di play.
Ya, oke. Iya.
Cek audio.
Tes. Mic MC dicoba 1, 2. Ladies and gentlemen, before we begin, we'd like to inform for the participant in a Zoom cloud meeting, the interpreter is available in English and Indonesian through the interpreter channel. Thank you. Excellencies, distinguished guests, participants, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for staying with us in the event Sarbika International Seminar, 22nd General Conference and 23rd Executive Board Meeting. Ladies and gentlemen, in 2021, UNESCO reopens heritage nomination documentaries on the UNESCO International Register of Memory of the World. This is a momentum for archival institutions to re-record the archives that are owned as the Memories World. This webinar will discuss the relationship between archive, documentary heritage, and culture, which are fundamental to be understood in the nomination of archives in the UNESCO Memory of the World program. Move to the next session. Keynote speech delivered by Advisor and Chief Communication and Information at UNESCO Bangkok, Mrs. Misako Ito. Good morning, Mrs. Misako Ito.
Hi, good morning. Selamat pagi.
Selamat pagi. How are you, Mrs.?
Yes, fine. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you clearly.
Okay, good. So, shall I start?
Yes, Mrs. Misako Ito, time is yours.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Let me start by sharing first my screen. I will make a brief presentations about the history of Memory of the World and the recent development as it was requested by the organizers. And I would like also again to thank Sarbika for inviting UNESCO in this important event. This is something that is very familiar to, I guess, all of you, but just a few words about the Memory of the World program. It is one of UNESCO's 3 cultural heritage program. You have the World Heritage program, which is about the site, monuments, landscape. We have the intangible cultural heritage on dance, music, cultural expressions, and we have the documentary heritage program, which is the memory of the world, and which is about the safeguarding of books, manuscript, films, archive, record, etc. And the program was born in 1992. At the time, there were a raising concern among the UNESCO's member states on the state of preservation of world's archive and collections from war, disasters, and technological changes. And actually, in 1992, the National Library and University Library of Bosnia was deliberately destroyed during the wars, and over 1.5 million of books, manuscript, and record, which were the central repository of Bosnian culture, were lost. So we share the visions for the program that documentary heritage belongs to all and should be fully preserved, protected, and make accessible for all and for our future generations. We work along the 3 lines of the program, focusing on preservations. We do a lot of technical assistance for preserving documentary heritage within the institutions, capacity building. We are also often linking donors with the need that we have identified in the countries. In the area of access, we promote digitizations, but also public access to both the original documents, not only the digitized copy, but original documents. We help to build a catalog which should be available to the public. And again, we are also linking the needs for increasing access with donors and sponsors. And in the area of awareness raising, as it was already mentioned, one of the most visible part of the program is the registers. And we are very happy to announce the launch of the international registrations processes after I think more than almost 4 years that the nomination processes has been suspended. We also work for to help identify significant collections and do also exhibitions, publications to promote documentary heritage. So as I already mentioned about the 3 registers, we have the international registers, which is about documentary heritage that has an impact and an influence beyond a specific country or regions. We are lucky in our regions, Southeast Asia, but much more broadly Asia Pacific, to have a very active Memory of the World Regional Committee, MOCAP. So we have the regional registration processes as well, which I hope we will be, we are aiming to open also soon. And also in some countries, we also have some national registers, which is the case of Australia, I think Indonesia has also announced that, New Zealand, etc. And so our regions, Asia Pacific, is home to immense cultural, linguistic, economic, and political diversity, which is all reflected in documentary heritage. And it takes a myriad of forms from palm leaf manuscript stone inscriptions that we can find quite prominently in Southeast Asia, photograph, film, books, and other media. Here are some figures about inscriptions. So we have in total 426 inscriptions on the international registers, with 99 coming from Asia Pacific, plus 10 which are inter-regional nominations. So in total, we have actually 109 inscriptions on the international register from the Asia Pacific regions. We have 56 inscriptions on the regional MOCAP registers. And from what we can see, the most dominant type of inscription in the regions are manuscript, then followed by inscriptions, stone inscriptions, and then we have audiovisual heritage, which is still lacking as inscription in the regions. And that's why UNESCO is also promoting World Day for Audiovisual Heritage. But the heritage is fragile, and it's often endangered by climate, which is most of the case in Southeast Asia. Humidity, natural disasters, neglect, or for audiovisual heritage, outdated technologies. And here I put some of the example of a risk that you can see in our collections. You can see one, this is one glass plate negative from Myanmar, where you have a chemical damage called silver mirroring. You can see the box of the vinyl disc at risk in casual storage. We have humid storages which encourage mold and decays quite often in Southeast Asia. So now I just introduce briefly the programs and also the state of the program in Asia Pacific. Now let me just highlight some of the recent developments in Memory of the World on, along with the preservation, access, and awareness raising. So we have concluded last year the first Memory of the World State of Preservation survey for Southeast Asia. This is a project that is funded by Japan, and we initiated last year a survey to assess the state of preservation and accessibility of inscriptions from Southeast Asia on the Memory of the World international registers. And I really would like to thank all the institutions from Indonesia who actively participated in the survey and shared the information. So the objective of the survey is to assess the state of preservations, but also the accessibility of the collections that were inscribed successfully on the Memory of the World international registers. And some of the key findings that I can share here on the questions about risk and risk to the collection. What are the key issues in the regions? Most of the collections are, mostly affected by humidity, moisture, and high temperature, which is, very understandable in the regions. Another important finding is about what kind of training needs are they to better preserve and provide access to the collections. There is a majority for digital heritage preservations, digitizations, lot of need in terms of digital storage, database, and archival description software, etc. So I'm just sharing here some of the key findings, and of course you can download the full report to have the view on that on UNESCO Bangkok website. Another type of activity that we are implementing in the region is capacity building for preservations. So you can see here our concrete work to preserve some glass plate negative in Myanmar. We are basically creating boxes and acid-free, using acid-free paper to preserve those glass plate negative which have been damaged by humidity, high temperature. Some of them are also broken. So we are doing that concrete preservation work. We have in plans over the next 2 years to organize an applied preservation training in cooperation with the National Archive of Japan here in Thailand. So the training will focus on memory institutions in Southeast Asia, and I really hope that over the next years, institution will be finally able to travel to Thailand to follow the training. We will be working also on the preservations toolkit, including disaster risk reductions and building the network of expert trainers who will be able to assist the institutions in disaster risk reduction in management. So this is the plan that we have over the next 2 years in cooperation with Japan, who is funding that project. Another interesting project that I would like to introduce here is the work that we are doing, and unfortunately has been suspended following the military coup this year in Myanmar, but which is about post-disaster recovery of Bagan through a photographic archive in Myanmar. If you have visited Myanmar, I'm sure you are familiar with the Bagan World Heritage Site, which is a significant site comprising over 3,500 monuments, successfully inscribed to the World Heritage since 2019. But in August 2016, a magnitude 6.8 earthquake severely damaged over 400 temples, including the mural inside the temples. So what we are working here is we are working on the collections of the glass plate negative from early 20th centuries in Myanmar, which are depicting some of the monuments in Bagan, but also other sites across Myanmar in order to help the physical restoration work. And actually the work that we are doing with the Bagan Photographic Archive is the work of preserving those glass plate negative, which have been concluded so far. And now we are aiming at digitizing those collections and making them accessible for the public to see them, download them, and to use for education or research purposes. So I already mentioned that the collections that we are working on are at risk. And so far, we managed to finish the preservation training, and the preservation work has been progress so far. But as regard to the digitizations, the project is unfortunately right now suspended, but I really hope to start again next year. Another project which we launched this year is with the Bofana Audiovisual Center in Cambodia, which is about creating audiovisual archive of indigenous languages using Wikitools. So it's a kind of innovative project, as we are here linking new tools such as, you know, Wikipedia platforms and other Wikitools that are available, and some audiovisual records and archive that documents some indigenous languages in one provinces in Cambodia. So we are providing training in filmmaking, you know, sound recording, storytelling, editing, and then we are creating this archive documenting those indigenous languages and cultures to make them available in open access on the Wiki platform. Another development that I would like to highlight is our study for Asia Pacific on gender equality, baseline study of memory of the word. Actually, over the past years, we analyzed 155 inscriptions from Asia Pacific, which are both on the international and regional registers, using some of the using gender lens. UNESCO has this tool which with 3 degrees of gender sensitivity, and the study find out that only 4 inscriptions out of 155 have a gender dimension, which would mean that it's either gender sensitive, gender responsive, or gender transformative. And when I say gender sensitivity, it's about, you know, documentary heritage collections that highlight some achievements or influence of women in histories or society, or some of the collections that relate to gender equality or women's empowerment. So there is a really gap, a big gender gap in the memory of the world in our regions, but also globally. So based on the finding, we launched the project which is called the Women in History, Telling Her Stories Through Memory of the World. And the platform of this project is accessible also from our UNESCO Bangkok website. But basically we invited institutions from the regions to start identify collections that has some gender dimension, whether it's highlight gender equality issues or inequality issues in the history, or that's help to, or documentary collections that's help for women's empowerment. Identify the collections, and we launched actually an online platform to put all these collections together on gender equality and women's empowerment. So you can visit those collections as well on our website. And let me finish my presentation by sharing our latest development, which is the Memory of the World Children's Book. So this is an attempt to, you know, vulgarize and popularize the Memory of the World program, but also the work, the fantastic work of the archives and archivists towards the younger generations, because it's not an area that has a huge visibility within the younger generation. So we created this book that tells the stories of memory of the world, but also discovery of the richness and diversity of documentary heritage collections in Asia Pacific through the three characters that you can see here on the screen, a little girl, boy, and cat, who will, go through a long journey in the regions to discover some of the collections. And we have at the end some creative exercise for young learners to record and document their own memory. And so far, we are happy to have both the Mongolian National Commissions taking the lead for translating this book into Mongolian. We really wish that it's been translated into Bahasa as well, and we are happy to provide the original file for that, and the Korean version is also coming. And finally, last but not least, the call for 2020-2023 nominations to the international registers is now open. The process is conducted in accordance with the revised general guideline of the Memory of the World programs and the new statutes of the international advisory committees. One of the major changes is that the nominators must contact the National Commission for UNESCO or any relevant government body in charge of relation with UNESCO to submit. And so you have a detailed submission processes on our website, but the deadline for submitting nomination is by the end of this month. So thank you very much. And please visit our website where you can find all the resources that I mentioned in my presentations. And if you have any questions, I'm very happy to answer. Thank you very much.
Very well. Thank you, Mrs. Misako Ito. Thank you, Mrs. Excellencies, distinguished guests, participants, ladies and gentlemen. Our event continues with the agenda of discussion by the panelists. As the leader of the panel discussion, I would like to invite the moderator, Mr. Pragus Dinianto from Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Please welcome Mr. Pragus Dinianto. Selamat pagi, Bapak Pragus.
Selamat pagi, Mbak Zaki. Hello, everyone. Thank you for the introduction, Mbak Zaki. And before that, I should thank Masako Ito for delivering the keynote speech to kick off our discussion panel today. Distinguished panelists and participants, very good morning to all of you. Welcome to the first panel session of Sarbika International Seminar. My name is Pragus Dinianto Sumantri from the Indonesian MOFA, or you can just call me Pragus for the simplicity. And I'm very grateful and privileged to be the moderator for this session. This session will be discussing a very interesting topic about archives, memory, and word documentary heritage. To follow up what Misako has mentioned in her remarks, he mentioned that the UNESCO now has reopened the nomination for the documentary heritage on the UNESCO Memory of the World, or MOW International Register. Thus, it gives opportunity for archival institutions to resubmit their archives as the world's memory. But she also mentioned, she reminds us that the deadline of the submission is just around the corner within this month, by the end of this month. So our discussion today will be focusing on relationship between archives, documentary heritage, and culture, which are fundamental in nominating the archives in the UNESCO MOW. Specifically, we are going to dive deeper to see the varieties of archives in Southeast Asia and how those archives are related from one to another, which might be potential to be submitted jointly as the UNESCO MOW. Already with us, three panelists who will enlighten us about the topics. Hello, everyone. I just want to greet all of you panelists, Dr. Phuthi, Professor Reed, and Gladys. I hope all of you are now with us. It's my pleasure to be with all of you. I will introduce our speaker in more details just before their presentation. But before that, let me just give you a quick housekeeping information that the session will be divided into three parts. The first part will be a presentation from the panelists with 20 minutes maximum. And the second part is the question and answer session. And finally, a short concluding remarks from all of the speakers. And I just want to kindly request our participants in Zoom meeting. For those who would like to raise questions, you can just write your question in the chat box on Zoom, and please also identify to whom the question will be addressed to. Now, shall we move to the presentation session? For the first speaker today, I'd like to welcome Dr. Minh Huong Phu from the Vietnam. So let me just introduce her from the curriculum vitae that I've received from the organizing committee. That Dr. Minh Huong Phu currently she is the vice chair of the Memory of the Word Committee of Asia and the Pacific. She also the former Director General of the State Records and Archives Department of Vietnam from the period of 2008 until 2015. And he holds a doctoral degree, Doctor in History, Institute of History of Hanoi. And currently, she also still active writing, publication in articles, both in domestic and foreign specialized journals. And also she is still active guiding as a guide for a PhD and master thesis at the University of Social Science and Humanities University of Cultures. And today, Dr. Minh Huong Phu will discuss about shared history and documentary heritage in Southeast Asia. Without further ado, I would like to welcome Dr. Phu. Dr. Phu, you have the floor. Dr. Phu?
Yes, thank you very much. First of all, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, I'd like to take this opportunity Okay, do you hear me?
Yes, Dr. Phu, I can hear you loud and clear. Please carry on.
Ladies and gentlemen, dear colleague, first of all, I take this opportunity to express my sincere thanks to the Director of the National Archives of Indonesia on behalf of SAGMICA for inviting me to this international webinar and talk about the relationship between archives, documentary heritage, and culture on behalf of MOCAP. And I think it's a good moment for us as a documentary institution to talk about the potential source of archive document for nomination, not only in the region, but for the International Register Documentary Heritage. My presentation will focus about the MOCAP, the National Archive as a potential source for nomination. And finally, I would like to highlight some points to consider for International Mount Register. As Ms. Misako Ito from UNESCO Bangkok just mentioned in the keynote about the three programs of UNESCO, that's World Heritage, Intangible Cultural Heritage, and Memory of the World. Is a three program of UNESCO. So for the Memory of the World is developed from 1992. And with the objective and mission of the Memory of the World program, and then the objective of the MO program, the vision of MO program is a work documentary heritage is belong to all and should be fully preserved and protected for all. And the Memory of the World in Asia Pacific is among our Asian countries, was set up in 1998 during his first general meeting in Beijing, China. And now MOCAP embraces the Asia Pacific region of 43 countries. And MOCAP is composed of UNESCO National Committee for MO program in Asia Pacific region. You can see the picture of the first general meeting held in Beijing, China. Is a very, very small meeting, but now, do you remember in the picture of Misako Ito to show that now the MOCAP has developed the big organization and very, very active in the region. So I think it's very important that our Asian country contribute to develop for MOCAP activities. I would like to highlight some tasks of MOCAP is a facilitating nomination to the regional and international MOU register. Secondly, supporting countries in the region that do not have a national committee to establish national MOU committee and coaching them. So in our Asian country, a part of the country has already the national MOU committee. First, encouraging cooperation and training with the region through the Project MOU program. So we have some project that Misako Ito just presented in the keynote. And I think this Asian country will participate for this UNESCO Bangkok project for Memory of the World program. And finally, MOCAP raises awareness of the importance of MOU program and promote the preservation and access of documentary heritage in Asia Pacific region. The second part of my presentation focus on the National Archive, a potential source for nomination. As you know, the call for nomination and inscription on the Asia Pacific Register, and like the international register, met every 2 years. And successful nomination will announced in the following year of MOCAP general meeting or announced in the website of MO of UNESCO. And for the register is listing those documentary heritage influence in the region, will approved by MOCAP. And in the region, until now, like the map that Misako Ito just present, we have 56 documentary heritage lists on the MO regional register until 2018. And in this list, I would like to mention that for archival document inscribed in the MOCAP register, we have Cambodia, we have one, Indonesia, we have one from archives, not another institution. Laos, we have one. Malaysia, we have one also. Myanmar, we have one. Singapore, one. Thailand, one. And Vietnam, two. And I would like to show some picture about the documentary heritage inscribed in the register from the National Archive. That means in our National Archive, we have a source, a very rich potential for preparing nomination. Cambodia is a Tung Slang Genocide Museum and Archive. So we know the rich collection of Museum Tung Slang. And for China, it is not a single country, but I would like to mention you, among 10 documentary heritage inscribed in the register, there are 10 documents that are conserved in the archives of China. So that means the significance and very, very special in our national archives. You can see some picture of national archives, please. And yes, it's China also. In Nanjing, also the Macau, in the Qing Dynasty, continue. Yes, in the Yunnan. So for the National Library of Indonesia, we have also the description of the country. It's very, very interesting and inscribed in the memory of the work of regional register. For Malaysia, we have also the Kitab Ilmu Bedi. It's from the National Archives. And for Myanmar, we have also in the Myanmar State Archive in Yangon, we have also the document inscribed in the register. You know, it's a silent film. It's not document in paper, but it's a silent film. And for Philippines, we have a collection of president papers, Louis Quezon. It's a very, very special collection of the president. And for Philippines, we have two collections, and also for Singapore, we have also the collection of film archives. Okay. And for Thailand, we have epigraphic Wat Phu in Bangkok archives, and not only the epigraphic in the Wat Phu, but also the documents in paper in archives of Bangkok. There are some documents very important. And for Vietnam, we have two documents, is the Imperial Records, and now is conserved in the National Archive Center in Hanoi, and also the woodblock of Nguyen Dynasty is conserved in National Archive number 4 in Đà Lạt, Vietnam. So among this collection who inscribed in the regional register, we know that among them is the International Archive. And now we are in the stage of review of MOCAP document, example, the guideline and the convention, the companion document. And for the MOCAP, we have also the, not yet, the call for nomination. We have only for the international register, and the deadline is November 30, in the end of this month. But for the MOCAP register is coming soon, I hope so. And now I would like to mention that two nominations per countries, and two countries or many countries may put joint submission where the collection are divided among several owner or custodian of different countries in the region. So not only for the international, but for the regional, we have also. And for the MOCAP, we have among the website that Misako Ito just present. We have also the table book of the memory of the World Heritage, and we have also the website. We have fan page, and in this information of the MOCAP, we can find everything. And I would like to focus about the International Mount Register now. For the International Mount Register, we have the first nomination in the 1997, and until now we are more than 300. And the nomination to the International Mount Register now invited in Bisenan Circle. So for the next one is 2022 and 2023 circle. So now we would like to highlight some point to consider for the next International Mount Register. And you know, the review of guideline of UNESCO, which just approved by the executive board in April of this year, some points have to consider very previously. Is inadmissible nomination. Why? Why I would like to mention you, because in the new guideline review recently, the inadmissible nomination does mean whole of institution nomination. Two is a several decorated document. If you present the document who has degrade very hard, it's difficult to examine for IAC. And any document that promotes the issue and idea in opposition of the proposal and principle of Charter of UN and the UNESCO Constitution is not admissible nomination. And paper of very early contemporary political leader and political party is not good for nomination, and the similar documents. And for the construction nomination, You can download on the website of Memory of the World of UNESCO. And recently, UNESCO insisted that now is a new point of submission of nomination is National Committee for MO and the NATCOM, the National Commission for UNESCO. And you, through the online platform, as a PDF document on the MO website. So now I think every country so prepare the document and nomination, and we are in the stage of put to the NATCOM now. And the new point for consider is work significance. Because when IAC examine a nomination, they insist about the word significance in the universal or regional. And if they consider that, say that it's better to present the nomination in the region, they can refuse for the international register. And nomination may make a comment in relation to one or more criteria, not to all. Maybe only one criteria event should be chosen for nomination. And the historical significance is they explain many relation to the history of the world. It's a very important criteria. That means political or economic development or social or spiritual is relevant eminent personality in world history, event of the world-changing epoch, specific place relating to time, even or example of excellence in the arts, literature, science, technology. And I see that in the regional, that means in the MOCAP, we have not much of nomination who is an example in the art and literature science. So I would like to insist about this historical significance to our country, in the Asian country, and to find in our treasures of archives for preparing the nomination, not for the international register, but only for the regional register. And finally, in the companion of guideline of the MO program, it's mentioned that if you need help in preparing your nomination, you can ask any MO national or regional committee, or you can ask the MO secretary to refer you a mentor who can explain the range of information you need to compile and how to compile it. Of course, it's very important that the mentor cannot prepare your case for you and cannot express any opinion on where your nomination has a good chance of successful or not. So thank you very much. Thank you for your attention. And I'm proud to sharing with you the opinion and comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Doctor, for your very interesting presentation. Let me just highlight some point that you mentioned. That first of all, you mentioned the brief introduction of MOCAP, and after that, you also mentioned about some documents that has been inscribed. Some of the documents in the National Archive of ASEAN countries that have been inscribed in the MO, and also in the Asia Pacific Memory of the World Register. And lastly, also suggesting some potential source of archives and also some point to consider when submitting the nomination for the Memory of the World Register. Well, I think this is a very important information, I guess for Andre especially. Just for information that for this year, Andre is in the process to submit collectively co-nomination with other non-aligned movement countries. The document of the first non-aligned movement conference as the Memory of the World. And also Andre is in the process to submit the Sukarno archive, if I'm not mistaken the term. So I think that's a very important information. Thank you very much, Dr. Putty. And next, we should move to our second panelist, Professor Anthony Reed. So let me just give some information about Professor Anthony Reed. Anthony Reed is currently a professor emeritus at the College of Asia and Pacific, Australian National University in Canberra. He held his PhD in history many years ago, in 65, sorry. And she's been lecturing in history and politics since 1965 as well. And as a professor, he is very productive. He writes no less than 9 books regarding politics history in the Southeast Asia. And his latest publication, A History of Southeast Asia, written in 2015, is just translated into Chinese and Japanese translation in 2021. It's quite difficult for me to synthesize his CV because it's quite dense, and he's a very, I think he's a big name in the history in the academic, particularly in history subject. So Professor Anthony Reed will discuss about archival documents, potential source of she will discuss about shared history and document heritage in the Southeast Asia. So yes, without further ado, Professor Anthony Reed, you may take the floor.
Thank you. Well, terima kasih kepada Tuan Rumah Indonesia dengan Andrinya. I'm hearing back myself. I hope that can be fixed. Okay, I kind of echo. Okay, I'll do my best, though it's strange to have an echo coming at me. So in preparing these thoughts, I had some difficulty understanding quite what my role is in the greater scheme of Sarbika and its very worthy aims. But I guessed three things about me that probably led them to think I might be relevant. Firstly, that I was a historian and therefore represent the consumers, you might say, of the world of archives. So we have a vested interest, and our vested interest is not only preservation, please God that goes well, but access, that please let us in. You'd expect me to say that, and I guess I will. Secondly, that I've written quite a lot about Southeast Asia, and I guess this is a Southeast Asian gathering, so I have avoided writing national histories and the pitfalls that surround national identity and so forth, and actually preferred, you might say, to make my canvas this broader world of Southeast Asia, which to me has a great deal of coherence. And thirdly, I have a certain age. I'm of the generation, of course, that can't even find our way around a smartphone, let alone have any idea what the archives of the world should do to cope with the challenge of digitalization. I mean, that's a huge challenge that all archives face. Just what is their role in this new world? and I wish you well, but you wouldn't expect somebody of my age to have the answer to that. So I'm going to talk about other things, about how I feel about Southeast Asia and its archives, and what we hope for the way ahead. Global historians have noted that for an important crossroads of the world, Southeast Asia has had rather little to say for itself in terms of the world's consciousness. Fundamentally, I think the reason for this is Southeast Asia's diversity, meaning its resistance to the kind of empire building that went on in the rest of Asia and Europe. Historically, it's not appeared to be a region at all in the sense in which East and Southeast and South Asia, or at least China and India, have done, because their classical or sacred languages survived to demand the attention of successors and ultimately of the world. This was not the case in Southeast Asia. Next slide, please. No, sorry, stay with that one. Stay with that one. This diversity, I hasten to add, we now celebrate as Southeast Asia's glory. Although past generations often thought it was the shame that we didn't have more powerful empires, I think now we have to see it as its glory. Its ability to resist empires, to tolerate diversity, to allow seemingly defenseless, stateless peoples to survive and flourish by retreating into their forests, uplands, or small islands, rather than be massacred or absorbed into the dominant model, as happened in China and Europe in particular. I think it was the environment, rather than the benevolence of dominant migrant groups, that made this possible, just as in Australia it was the desert that saved and protected Indigenous people, and not the benevolence of the immigrants. Benevolence or tolerance came only much later in the last 30 or 40 years, in both cases, at the 11th hour, one might say. Next slide, please. Empires do indeed speak and write. Next slide, please. Speak and write much more loudly and frequently than stateless peoples, or indeed than the state forms most typical of historic Southeast Asia. What I label in my recent book that was mentioned by the chair, Negri in the maritime south, that is relatively transient, personalized river mouth states, or Muang, especially the Thai-speaking Muang of the north, upland valley rice growers with cooperative irrigation systems. Both were smallish, inherently bottom-up types of organization, which didn't generate the bureaucratic documentation of empires. The few inscriptions surviving from these smaller polities, and even from the smaller, I do apologize for that. Nobody ever rings me except when I'm giving a lecture. The few inscriptions surviving from these smaller polities, and even the more stable temple building states based on wet rice agriculture, which I call Negara, the Angkor, Pagan, first Mataram, and so forth, have become the business not of archives, but of museums, archaeologists, and epigraphers, totally opaque to modern Southeast Asians. Literature was, of course, created on palm leaf and occasionally even paper, but with the partial exception of Hanoi, there was no central imperial institution to conserve these ephemeral writings until the Spanish and Dutch, and later British and French, began to do so. The next slide, please. This pattern of preferring freedom and diversity to absorption into bureaucratic empires got a bad press from colonial writers anxious to confirm the superiority of their own bureaucratic habits, bureaucratic and legal habits, you might say, and also from many nationalists seeking to wrest control of just those bureaucracies. Only in this post-nationalist 21st century do we see attempts to celebrate precisely that aversion to the state that I think should be celebrated. So, I mean, a little self-promotion here, but these are representative, I think, of the recent tendency to celebrate human diversity in the region and the ability to resist the state rather than make history the whole business of states. History and, of course, archives, the product of states. We're beginning to see that the choice of statelessness, the choice of escaping control of the state is, in fact, something that Southeast Asians should be proud of and should be ready to celebrate. But for those of us, and all in this category, I'm sure, who treasure the written record, because we're historians or archivists, we must be grateful for the imperial bureaucrats' habits of writing, even if we have little taste for being ruled by them. These bureaucratic empires, like the Chinese before them, brought into the region the motivation, the stability, and the permanent stone buildings to create and conserve records, long before they actually governed more than a tiny fraction. The English and French, they did provide voluminous and coherent narratives that can rightly be considered Southeast Asian treasures and Southeast Asian heritage, written in the region and in large part by people born and bred in the region, even if in yet another externally derived language to add to the mix of extraordinary variety of language in the region. Southeast Asia was an essential crossroads for the world at the same time as it was environmentally resistant to state building and absorption. The imperial world systems, accustomed to record keeping for their distant masters, established enduring hubs here, which became archive repositories for much wider regions. Manila from 1571 was not just the capital of the Philippines, it was the Spanish and Iberian hub for the whole of Asia, just as Batavia or Jakarta from 1619 became the Dutch hub for the whole of Asia, and therefore the record-keeping center for the whole of Asia. In that long century after 1630, Batavia, as Yeshonu showed for Manila and Leonard Bluset for Batavia. In what I've sometimes called the Chinese century in Southeast Asia that followed, when a great diversity of Southeast Asian ports began to flourish away from those imperial centers. In a way, the imperial centers become a bit less useful in documenting the diversity that results because monopolies broke down. The role of the monopoly companies of the English and Dutch became less central. And so we have to look to precisely the smaller negri for a record of what was going on. Finally, in the period after the foundation of Penang in 1784 and the dominance of the British through the Napoleonic Wars and thereafter, through the 19th and early 20th century, Penang and especially Singapore became the new hubs, a different kind of hubs, not so much the imperial hubs that were interested in a bureaucratic generation of extensive documentation, but commercial hubs and communication centers. So the newspaper, perhaps rather than the government document, became the crucial treasure of that period where the British hub, English-speaking hub in Singapore was dominant. And so we start to get, we need the 6th or 7th, we need the, please, Helen, please take it away. I can't understand. Take them both. Sorry about that again. Now I don't know what slide we're on, but we should be by now on slide 6. So let's hope that that's happening. I can't see that it's happening anymore. I mean, Singapore became a new kind of hub, which generated a sense of identity of the region in a way that the older hubs, Jakarta, Manila, no longer did. And so you got journals like the Journal of the Indian Archipelago and Eastern Asia, or Crawford's writing. You got documents in the early 19th century that cover the whole region. And indeed, they're based on the newspapers which did the same. There we are, we've got the right one. Now we move to next slide, please, 7. The French role was more nationalist than the British, more nationalist than anybody else really, in dividing Indochina from its Asian trading partners, reorienting the trade of Indochina to France. But intellectually, their scholars did much to uncover the historic commonalities of Southeast Asia. And that wonderful organization, the École Française d'Extrême-Orient, or IFIO, was based, of course, in Hanoi, and again became not a governing hub in any sense or a commercial hub, but an intellectual hub of sorts for the region of Southeast Asia in particular, but a broader definition of Asia. So the expertise was gathered, which was able to demonstrate the fundamental coherence of Southeast Asia in the earliest period that we think of as the Indianized phase of temple building states, the Hinduized states, as Sodez put it in his first version of the synthesis that made Southeast Asia a unit. So these, if we go to the next slide, please. The writing and statistics generated by all these hubs are Asian resources. Not simply national or imperial ones. So Sarbika might well be proposing through ASEAN the kind of cooperative projects that, for example, encourage the assembling of Thai, Malay, Chinese, and English language sources for the history of the peninsula. What I tend to call the Southeast Asian Peninsula, or just the peninsula, to avoid having to say whether it's a Thai peninsula or a Malay peninsula, because it's genius, that dominant feature of the Southeast Asian geography, that enormous peninsula, is distinctive by its astonishing plurality and the overlapping history as a fulcrum, a hinge of Asia. So, I mean, this is, if you like, a conflict area. And I noted that UNESCO is seeking nominations of seminal important events, and Indonesia has rightly chosen the Bandung Conference and so forth. But a lot of the most seminal events are also the most divisive events, the revolutions, the wars, the conflicts. And the tendency of national states has tended to be less than open in the way it manages knowledge about these conflict areas. So as a historian, and perhaps the last of the liberals left standing, I want to say, no, the answer to conflict, national conflicts of the past, is open archives, is allowing each other to look at the record, at looking what we have, rather than imagining the worst of us, of opening these records of each society as a way to deal with the contested boundaries of the past, as well as the ongoing heritage of them. The arbitrariness and fragility of historically changing boundaries, if acknowledged and analyzed together in an open way, can be a means of cooperation rather than conflict. It was Robert Schuman, child of the contested Franco-German area of Alsace-Lorraine, who laid the basis of the European Union. His famous plea in 1949, our century that has witnessed the catastrophes resulting in the unending clash of nationalities and nationalisms, must attempt and succeed in reconciling nations in a supranational association. So it's interesting that, I mean, we're now celebrating Schuman as a great pioneer of the European idea of the reconciliation idea, but that he came out of precisely that area which changed hands between France and Germany and became contested between France and Germany and a great source of conflict. So similarly, we should perhaps think of the contested areas between Cambodia and Thailand, or Cambodia and Vietnam and so forth, as precisely the places that we need to be open about. We need to look at all sides, and we need to see the way forward is through openness rather than through controlling information. And yeah, we stay with this side. During my last years in Singapore at the NUS, I led a research program on the Cold War in Asia at the Asia Research Institute. I was sorry I had to leave it before it could be fully realized, but I became convinced of the urgency of approaching the Cold War cooperatively from a Southeast Asian perspective. Relations between countries still, unfortunately, continue to be strained by their very different memories of this period and the very different ways in which the period is taught. The losing side in the Cold War, whether in Vietnam on the one hand or in Malaysia or Indonesia on the other, is hardly given a place at the table, a voice in the process of opening and developing a collective memory that is fair and balanced of that divisive Cold War era. But it is now in the past. It belongs firmly in the past. It is the stuff of archives. And it seems to me very appropriate for a cooperative approach to sharing archives. The urgency for such an approach to the Cold War seemed more important in the last 20 years as the key players in the Cold War, the Soviet Union and the United States, began to open their own archives and memories to each other, and to construct a common understanding of what had transpired through normal scholarly dialogue. So the danger of not opening our Southeast Asian archives on this formative period is that historians will go on relying on other archives, notably those of the US, Britain, and the Soviet bloc group, both Germany's and so forth. And thereby, when we're writing about Southeast Asia, the people who go to those archives, as they do, to tell us more about the Cold War, necessarily exaggerate the role of the outsiders, of the Europeans in conflicts in Southeast Asia, as if the agency is all on their side rather than on the Southeast Asia. Have a Southeast Asia-centric history, or at least a balanced history. We need to open our archives and let our own sources be read by our own and other scholars. So I think I'm going to leave it there. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Professor Reed, for your very interesting explanation. I think there are some salient points that you mentioned. I think in general you try to understand the Southeast Asia, the archive in the Southeast Asia from the historical national identity perspective, which is very interesting. And also, I think you also suggesting that countries in Southeast Asia should cooperate to have an open archives, so that with that countries can now better understand about how the situation or the history in the region during the formative years of the countries. I think that's a very important point that you mentioned, and hopefully it will trigger to more discussion on our next session. So I should move to our last speaker. Is Gladys Respati. Gladys Respati, let me just introduce her. She is currently working at the ASEAN Secretariat. So it's been joining the ASEAN Secretariat since 2018 until 2020 as a project officer of the Pole on Asian Awareness. And then currently she's working as the communication officer of the ASEAN Cultural Heritage Digital Archives, starting from January 2021 until now. She holds a bachelor degree in international relations, Parahyangan Catholic University, which surprisingly we are coming from the same university, Gladys.
Yes.
So yeah, so she will discuss about the ASEAN Cultural Heritage Digital Archive, preserving and promoting ASEAN legacy. Without further ado, I should give the floor to you.
Thank you very much, Bagus, for the introduction. I hope my voice comes out clearly.
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay, thank you. Let me share my screen with everyone. Okay, so good afternoon. Before I begin, I would first like to thank the National Archives of the Republic of Indonesia for inviting the ASEAN Secretariat to speak at this event. And it is a great honor and pleasure to be here among our distinguished experts and presenters. I will be sharing about one of the ASEAN socio-cultural community's key initiatives in the culture and arts sector, which is called the ASEAN Cultural Heritage Digital Archive, or what we often abbreviate as ACHDA for short. The ACHDA is a project led by the ASEAN Secretariat with NTT Data as the implementing agency. NTT Data is a global business and IT services company based in Japan that has also digitized the collections of the National Diet Library of Japan and the Vatican Library. The project is guided by the ASEAN Senior Officials Meeting on Culture and Arts, or SOMCA, which is an ASEAN body that comprises senior representatives of the ministries and or agencies in charge of culture and arts from ASEAN countries, or what we like to call the ASEAN member states. The project is made possible with support from the government of Japan through the Japan-ASEAN Integration Fund. The ACHDA project comprises 3 phases, which were initially planned to be implemented over the period of 6 years. The first phase was successfully conducted from February 2018 until March 2021, in which we digitized over 160 items from Indonesia, Malaysia, and Thailand. The ongoing second phase, which we're conducting now, began in April 2021, and it is divided into 2 batches. The first, Cambodia and Myanmar, and this will hopefully be followed by Laos and Vietnam starting 2022. Now, unfortunately, due to travel restrictions caused by the COVID-19 pandemic, the digitization activities in Cambodia and Myanmar have been delayed, but if all goes well, we do expect to begin digitization in these countries in early 2022. Last but not least, the upcoming third and final phase will involve Brunei Darussalam, Singapore, the Philippines. And by the end of this third phase, the ACHDA will have hosted digitized assets from all 10 ASEAN member states. So in some of our ASEAN member states, the digitization of cultural heritage is still very much in its early stages. And it's for this reason that these efforts need to be supported and sustained. And so the ACHD project aims to support the digitization of cultural heritage assets in the ASEAN member states and establish a consolidated regional platform to share the digital archives among the AMS, ASEAN member states. The current project phase also emphasizes public promotion of the ACHD website through social media and the soon-to-be-launched virtual or e-exhibitions. And ultimately, the ACHDA aims to raise ASEAN awareness and foster a sense of regional identity among ASEAN citizens through a deeper understanding of our shared heritage. The ACHDA website was recently launched at the concluding forum convened at the ASEAN Secretariat on 27 February 2020. So it is now almost 2 years old. It can be accessed through the link shown on screen. So that's https://heritage.asean.org. And since its launch, the website has become a valuable source of information on ASEAN cultural heritage that allows the public to appreciate ASEAN's rich cultural heritage up close in 3-dimension, 2-dimension, and through audio-visual recordings. As of November 2021, the ACHDA boasts a total of 274 digitized cultural heritage assets. That's 20 from Cambodia, 71 from Indonesia, 73 from Malaysia, 7 from Myanmar, and 103 from Thailand. And in September 2021, the website had been visited over 135,000 times. The project itself has 3 main activities and outputs. First is digitization of items from the ASEAN member states in 3D and 2D format, which are then uploaded to the ACHD website. And this is followed by updating the website itself by adding and improving website features, and also continuously adding new items to the archive. The participating countries can contribute their own digital archives to the ACHDA. So or any of their digital assets in 2D, 3D video format can be uploaded to expand the collection. And since February 2020, Cambodia, Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, and Myanmar have collectively contributed over 100 images and videos. Finally, promotional activities to increase public awareness of the ACHDA. Unfortunately, due to travel restrictions, we have mostly been focusing on online promotions through social media and the upcoming e-exhibition page. We also have a webtoon and podcast lined up that will be produced under another one of ASEAN's initiatives, which is the ASEAN Communication Master Plan. So a little bit about the technical aspects. The digitization activities encompass 3 main processes: before digitization, during digitization, and after the digitization. So it first begins with selection of the participating institutions. And what we mean by participating institutions here are museums, galleries, and libraries, and also selection and submission of the proposed items to be digitized. And these are actually decided by the relevant ministries of culture in each ASEAN country. After that, this is followed by the digitization, which is preceded by an assessment visit by NTT Data, our implementing agency, to each country. And basically, during the assessment visit, they will confirm whether the selected items can indeed be digitized, because there are various considerations that I will discuss in the next slide. And then after that, we'll conduct the digitization. And after that, the institutions then provide metadata, location, size, date, description, and item title to complete the information provided on our website. And after that, this is followed by promotion by the ASEAN Secretariat and also the institutions on social media and to their respective networks. Okay. As mentioned, there are some points of consideration that come into play during the selection of these items. These include location. For example, is the item indoors or outdoors? Where is it placed? What will the lighting be like? The tool setup needed to digitize. Also size, characteristics, and these will actually affect the method of digitization because, for example, shiny objects cannot be captured using the 3D tools. So we only have the option of doing it in 2D. And then there are other considerations such as special handling needed if the item is fragile. moving costs and also the need for human resources. And during handling, there are also aspects of damage and possible loss of the items. And finally, we also need the approval of the respective ministries to be able to finalize the list of items. So the ACHDA website supports a wide range of digitized cultural heritage assets in 3D, 2D, video, and audio, as I previously mentioned. And some of the items available, for example, are furniture, such as the gilded manuscript cabinets from Thailand. And there are also traditional musical instruments from Malaysia, traditional dance costumes and the characters themselves from the Makyong dance drama from Malaysia. There are also ancient and also modern sculptures created by more contemporary artists, golden coins, manuscripts, trinkets, and even video recording of the dance drama itself from Malaysia. And documenting heritage is also actually part of the ACHDA's collection, such as the image you can see on screen here. This is the Lagaliko script from the National Library of the Republic of Indonesia, which was inscribed into the UNESCO Memory of the World Register in 2011. There is also the Negara Kertagama script, also from the National Library of Indonesia, inscribed in 2013, and the Panji Jayakusuma collection, inscribed in 2017. And for this particular manuscript, what's interesting about it is it was actually submitted by Cambodia, Indonesia, Malaysia, the Netherlands, and United Kingdom to be nominated in the register. But for this particular item here, this is from Indonesia's collection. And as you can see here, on the left side is the 2D image of the individual pages. So we have all of the pages of the document. And then on the right side, you can see the 3D image of the item, which if you open it on the website, you can move the object around and see the sides, the top, and from the bottom. The National Archives of Thailand have also recently contributed 33 items from its collection of glass plate negatives. And these present historical evidence of the social, cultural, political, and also foreign relation activities of the time. Additionally, the project also digitized 51 traditional books and ancient manuscripts from the archives of the National Library of Thailand. These are very interesting and very colorful too, if you see the images. Some of the manuscripts are about cats and horses and identifying different elephants. Others are about, for example, the illnesses that were existing at the time and how Thailand dealt with these. And so it's very interesting to see, and it could also be very useful for research. Okay. Next, as mentioned earlier, ASEAN strives to promote public access to the digital archives through the ACHDA website. And as part of our promotional activities, the ASEAN Secretariat will very soon be launching a new feature of the ACHDA website, which is the e-exhibition page. The e-exhibition aims to showcase the ACHDA's collection through storytelling and also thematic displays. Our inaugural e-exhibition, our first exhibition, is titled Forging History, Metals in the Crucible of ASEAN's Transformation, which focuses on the role of metals in transforming the region's history and culture. And it features 22 curated items from Indonesia, Malaysia, and Thailand. Among the highlights of these exhibitions are the Thai manuscript cabinets, which narrate Buddhist teachings through intricate gold leaf overlays. And in fact, these manuscript cabinets used to host religious manuscripts. And there are also golden crowns that were worn by generations of rulers of Indonesia, of Indonesian sultanates. and also gold coins from Malaysia that memorialize Islam's influence in the region. So the e-exhibition will be launched this Friday on 26 November 2021 at 2 p.m. Jakarta time at the webinar and launch of Forging History, Metals in the Crucible of ASEAN's Transformation. There will be a few presentations by experts from Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, and Japan on how museums, galleries, and other cultural institutions can reimagine their exhibitions during and post-COVID-19. And at this opportunity, the ASEAN Secretariat would also like to invite everyone here to join us at the webinar. You can register at the link shown on screen, bit.ly ACHDA webinar, or scan the barcode shown on screen. I will also write the link in our chat box so that everyone can access it easily. Since I believe we still have a little bit of time left in my presentation, before concluding it, please allow me to share a short video on the ACHD project, which I think perfectly summarizes this initiative. Okay, so this concludes my presentation on the ASEAN Cultural Heritage Digital Archive. For further information and updates on ACHDA, please do follow ASEAN COCI on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter at the handles shown on screen. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mbak Gladys, for presenting the very interesting topics about ASEAN Cultural Heritage Digital Archive, or ACHDA. To me, I think this is a very interesting initiative coming from the ASEAN to support the digitization programs of museum and cultural institution in the ASEAN countries. So I think from your video is clearly reflect that from that program, basically we can just bring museum, to our hand through a tablet or through handphone. So that is a very interesting way to give public access for the heritage document or things. So that is the last speaker coming from Gladys. So for the next one, we should move. Sorry, can you hear my voice very clearly? Because I just realized maybe there is some troubleshooting on my side.
I can hear it, no problem.
Oh, okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. So yes, now we should move to the question and answer session. From the organizing committee, we already chose 3 questions. And these questions are addressed to each of the speakers. So let me start by the first one. It has come from Utami from the city of Cilegon, West Java. Her question is addressed to Dr. Putih. Her question is, what kind of cooperation and training does MOCAP provide to the National Committee to register the world's documentary heritage in the future? So that is the first question. So I hope Dr. Putih can keep the answer. Meanwhile, just a while, so I can move to the second question, and then all the speakers can answer the question on this next session. Okay, so let's move on to the second question. It's coming from Sulasmi. The question is addressed to Professor Reed. She's asking what forms of modernization are needed for society in Southeast Asia today in the submission of world documentary heritage. And the last question is for Mbak Gladys, coming from Lupita from Bawaslu RI. Her question is how to maintain the artwork like statue or inscription still in the form as before. And in digital era, how to show the true shape of artwork aside from just photo or video, if the archives is already destroyed or already deformed. Okay, so those are the questions. So for the first opportunity, I will give the floor to Dr. Putih to answer the first question.
Okay. Okay. For the cooperation and training of MOCAP, before we have several training courses in occasion of a general meeting. Normally we have a training, it's the same time with general meeting of the bureau, but due of COVID pandemic, during two last year, we have no event for the National MOCAP Committee for state country. And I hope that now with the situation more and more stable, we MOCAP can organize more training and even the bureau and general meeting. But I'd like to mention you that during last 2 years, we have only the bureau MOCAP meeting by online, not in person. Not so it's difficult for all of us to follow the training. For the new future coming time, I think we can have some training, because after the Bureau MOCAP meeting, there will be on next December, we will talk about our planning of training and cooperation between our ASEAN country. Okay.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Putri. Thank you for your clarification and for your answer. And then we should move to Professor Reed.
Okay, thank you. Hope you can hear me. Thanks, Mbak Sulasmi. As I mentioned, I seem the last person in my age group to understand the challenge of digitalization, but this does seem to me the major challenge for archives of modernization, or at least of the world we live in. It has so transformed our society, the fact that data is generated so quickly, so easily, so massively, and yet can be lost equally quickly. And the question is, I suppose, what is the role of archives in deciding what needs to be permanently preserved and how to permanently preserve it? I mean, we're used to the old idea that an archive was, in a sense, the record of government, and that it was all closed until 30 years or 50 years or whatever. There was a gap, and then it was open, and then we could see what governments were really up to. But that seems very, I mean, that was a serviceable way of dealing with the record of government in the past. But now, in a society where everybody is generating text messages and so forth, and consuming their information in ways that are not what ordinary newspapers were generating. I mean, we used to think if it's in a newspaper, it's worth preserving. But what's worth preserving from social media? These things are enormous challenges. And it seems to me we need, above all, we need guidance as to how to determine what should be kept and what should not be. And once kept, I mean, it's less a question of opening it for scrutiny than I think of simply preserving it and ensuring that this kind of data should not be subject to the changes in technology, which might make it outmoded so that we can't read it anymore. Certain kinds of documents must be preserved, but that's already such a massive expansion of archival functions. It seems to me, I guess that's modernization, but it's a modernization beyond my modernity. My lifetime was coping with other kinds of modernization. This one is for your generation, and I have little to say except good luck. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor, for your response. Finally, to Mbak Gladys.
Okay, thank you for the question, Lupita. So the question is how to maintain artworks like statue or inscriptions as they were. If we go back to the objectives of the ASEAN Cultural Heritage Digital Archive, what we do is actually support the digitization of heritage in the ASEAN member states. Unfortunately, at the moment, this does not include digital restoration of these artifacts. But at the very least, we will have an archive of the objects and in 3D. For example, let me share a screen with you. Would it be possible to share a screen? Okay. Yes. So, for example, here we have the Harihara sculpture of the National Museum of Indonesia. it's taking quite a while to load. But basically from this, you can see that in our records, we have a very, very detailed 3D image of the objects. And so from here, possibly in the future, anybody who would like to do a digital restoration of the sculptures will be able to do it using the data that we have. Sorry, my internet is a bit slow today. Okay. As you can see, we can look at the item in 3D and also zoom in very closely. Sorry. Like so. So again, right now what we're doing does not include digital restoration, but at the very least we will have records of these items in 3D that can be used for future research or any restoration efforts. That's all from me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mbak Gladys, for your answer. Well, I think those answer pretty much answer all the question from the participants. And actually, I still have some question at my hand, but I just informed by the committee that we have a very tight schedule for the next session. So therefore, we have to end the question and answer session, and we should move to the last session for today seminar, which is the concluding remark. With that, I will invite Dr. Putih to deliver your concluding remark. No more than 1 minute, if that's possible. Thank you.
Okay. So thank you very much for inviting me to sharing our new information about the international register, MO register. So I think that it's very important for me to be here, and I think it's very important that the country, Asian country, mention our precious and potential source in our national archives as the new nomination for two-level international and regional register for documentary heritage. So we are ready to answer all of you for nomination between Secretariat of MO, Memory of the War, or MO Secretariat in Paris. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And Professor Reed.
Yeah, well, I think as historian, I think I should thank the archivists of Southeast Asia and indeed the world for the wonderful work they do in preserving archives, and up to a point, making us welcome when we want to research something. But I must say we would like a little more cooperation and openness in that latter part. But there's already a good start. But I think much more can be done. But particularly because we live in a world of such incredibly rapid data accumulation, keeping ahead of it is the issue. Keeping it secret. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Reed. And Mbak Gladys.
Thank you, Mas Bagus. I think in summary, culture plays a very important role in achieving an ASEAN community that is aware and also proud of its identity, culture, and heritage. And so the ACHD project hopes to build a sustainable and also resilient repository of digitized cultural heritage that is also inclusive and accessible to everyone. We do hope that the ASEAN member states will continue to contribute and propose digitization of documentary heritage in order to preserve and also protect ASEAN's legacy. Thank you.
Thank you for all the speakers, distinguished participants, and panelists. We are now at the end of our discussion today. Thank you for your contribution to all the presenters to give to provide enlightening discussion for us all. There's a lot of takeaways that we can take from this discussion. And also, I would thank to the participant for actively involved in the discussion. And finally, personally, I would like to thank Andri for having me as the moderator in the 2021 SARBICA International Seminar. With that, I conclude the panel session. Once again, thank you very much. And I over to MC in the studio. Mbak Azkia, you can take the floor, please.
Thank you for all the speakers and presenters for delivering the knowledge in this conference.
Ya. Matiin dulu. Aku nggak bakal kelihatan ya? Masuk suara.
Thank you, Mrs. Azki. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Let me introduce myself. My name is Hoirunisa Fadilah. I am an archivist of the National Archives of the Republic of Indonesia. In this good occasion, I would like to deliver this event recommendation for all of you. International seminars on archives, memory, and works, documentary heritage, Jakarta, November 23rd, 2021. Recommendations. First, international archival organizations have a moral obligation to promote the realization of the world's documentary heritage belongs to all humankind, be fully preserved and protected for all, and be accessible to all. Second, Asian countries should be open to and share their shared history and documentary heritage to be memory of the world, so that we can tell the stories from a Southeast Asian perspective of indigenous state survival. Third, the Asian and the Pacific region countries are encouraged to propose United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization Memory of the World Register nominations. Fourth, Asian Cultural Heritage Digital Archives should keep identifying shared Asian cultural heritage, make them digitized, and provide access to the collection online via HCHDA website. Fifth, Asian Cultural Heritage Digital Archives need to intensify public promotion of the Asian Cultural Heritage Digital Archives website in order to raise greater awareness and appreciation of the shared Asian cultural heritage. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hoirunisa. Ladies and gentlemen, last, we have an announcement of the best questioner, which will be delivered by Mr. Oji. Mr. Oji, time is yours.
Make it too. Di sini mute-nya enggak? Laptopnya di mute enggak?
Masuk belum? Enggak masuk. Oh, masuk audionya. Bilangnya di sini jangan ada yang buka. Ya. Mic off semua. Mic off. Cek.
Bapak Riki Priyono dari Perpustakaan Nasional.
Enggak di pojokan. Enggak di dalam.
Suara Mas Oji udah masuk dulu?
Belum. Bukan.
Siapa sih yang megangnya laptop Hamid? Di drop aja, jadi nggak tendi.
Atendi. Bentar. Ada yang lagi pakai kah?
Oh iya boleh boleh. Ya, assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Mohon maaf menunggu. Kedengeran suaranya, Mbak Saski?
Kedengeran, Mas.
Kedengeran suaranya ya. Berikut adalah 3 penanya terbaik dari tim rekomendasi hasil dari akumulasi pertanyaan yang ada di Zoom. Kedengeran suaranya? Oke, second runner up-nya adalah Ibu Dewi Melati. Selamat Ibu Dewi. First runner up-nya adalah Ibu Lupita dari Bawaslu RI. Dan juga yang pemenangnya adalah Bapak Riki Priyono dari Perpustakaan Nasional RI. Pada ketiga penanya terbaik, kami ucapkan selamat. Sukses selalu menyertai, kesehatan selalu menaungi, dan berkah selalu menghampiri. Dan sampai jumpa di acara webinar Sartika tahun-tahun berikutnya. Terima kasih Mbak Saski.
Yang bisa ngasih ini dari sini.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are now officially at the end of the event. On behalf of the organizing committee, we would like to thank you for staying